Hello, this is topic one, and we are looking at Weimar Germany and, in particular, the Constitution's origins 1918 to 1929. So, to begin, we have the state that Germany is in 1918 as the war is ending. In the bottom left hand corner here, you can see I've just put full context, so you will not be asked a direct question on this, you just need a general sense of the state Germany is in at this time. As a result of the war, British Navy ships have blocked supplies entering Germany. We have 750,000 Germans starving. There are protests, there are strikes about this. Soldiers are refusing to follow orders, and some are even joining in with the protests. Towns are setting up unofficial courts. Jewish communists are encouraging people to strike to bring change. And on top of this, Germany's debt has reached 150 million marks. All this leads to the German Revolution. This is where people confirm that they've lost their confidence in Kaiser Wilhelm. Now, Kaiser Wilhelm is like the king or the ruler of Germany at this time, and it makes Germany a monarchy. So the people have confirmed that he has lost control and they do not have faith in him anymore, and he abdicates. So he leaves for Europe to take shelter there. Meanwhile, the SPD, see the Social Democrats, they lean out of the window of the Reichstag and declare that Germany is now a republic. Friedrich Ebert is put in charge whilst they are establishing a constitution, and he's quite clever in assembling a council of 6 fairly moderate politicians, and they are going to decide on the new constitution. Meanwhile, he keeps the country running by ensuring that the communists are absolutely kept out of power, that civil servants continue to work alongside soldiers to make sure things like taxes are collected. They're going to try and keep peace in Germany. He promises not to privatise any industry, which keeps the nationalists and the industrialists a little bit happier. And he works with the trade unions to improve some conditions at this time. This means that Germany is in a very fragile state, but it's ticking along whilst they are waiting to create the constitution. So, what is the Weimar Constitution? It's basically the document, the set of rules about how they are going to run the country under this new republic. So, a republic is a country that doesn't generally have a monarchy. So this is what they decide, and it's more democratic than they'd ever known, because under the rule of the Kaiser, it was quite traditional and lots of the decision making was with him and his advisors. So this is a completely new way of running Germany. So they need people to support it because they're used to the old ways. In 1919, the Weimar Constitution is therefore agreed. And these are the things that keep the country running. So at the very top, they are going to have a president. He's going to be elected by the public every 7 years. This is democratic. His job is to pick the Chancellor, and the Chancellor is the guy that runs the country day to day. He makes all the day-to-day political decisions. He normally picks the person that is the leader of the biggest political party, and I'll talk about some of those in the next slide. He also is in control of the army, so he does have great power, and he is the person that can permit Article 48. Article 48 is a rule that overrules the Reichstag in a time of emergency. So it is very much an article that's only meant to be used in an emergency. Next, we have the Chancellor, and he picks his cabinet, so his advisors that are going to help him make decisions in the country, and he is selected by the President, as we've previously mentioned. Now, they do need the support of the Reichstag. In order to get policy through, you need people in the Reichstag, or politicians in the Reichstag, to vote yes. If you don't have the majority that you need, it makes it very hard for you to run the country as people don't agree with you. And that means that you have to run to the president and ask to use Article 48 just to govern the country. This is not very democratic. Next, we have the cabinet, and they are the most important ministers. Now, really, they should be chosen on merit. They should be talented and skilled men, but some chancellors just pick their rich friends. Next, we have the Reichstag, and this is the German parliament. Members in the Reichstag are voted in by the public every 4 years. So once again, this is democratic. This really should be fair, and it means you've got the voice of the people in government. They do things like vote on laws and on tax, and there is a system of proportional representation. Proportional representation means that parties were given seats in Parliament in direct proportion to the percentage of the total votes they receive nationwide. Now, it does seem fair, but it can cause some problems, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on. Next, we have the Reichsrat. This is a bit like the House of Lords, and they can kick back any laws that they don't agree with back to the Reichstag to ask them to change them or amend them in some way. And they represent the individual areas of Germany. Later on, Hitler is going to get rid of these because they wield quite a bit of power. Finally, we have the German people, and they are the electorate, people that can elect people into power. And this is really quite forward for Europe at the time. Men and women over the age of 21 can vote. So it's very democratic at this time. Just for illustration here, to prompt you to remember, I've included a political spectrum here to show you where the parties in Germany are sitting at this time. So you should remember you've got your extreme left and your extreme right, and people don't tend to vote for these parties when times are good, but when times are bad, these parties promise things that people want. So on our far left, and these are going to be a feature across the whole of our study here, we've got the Communist Party, known as the KPD. And remember, they are linked to the Spartacist revolt, which is going to happen a little later on. On the extreme right, we've got the NSDAP, our Nazi party, and they tend to have the support of the bigger businesses that absolutely don't want the communists in power. In the centre here then, there is a centre party, and centre left, we've got the SPD, known as the Social Democrats. And middle classes tend to quite like these, as well as the workers. But workers do quite often show loyalty to the Communist Party, and they have a strong vote from them. Okay, next we're going to look at the good and bad parts of the Weimar Constitution. So, in 1919, when this is voted in, there are some really positive things that encourage the people. Firstly, it's democratic. Men and women over 21 could vote. This meant that the electorate could turn out and vote for the first time, where previously they couldn't under the Kaiser, as he was quite traditional. We also have proportional representation, which I mentioned earlier. There was one representative in the Reichstag for every 60,000 votes they got. This meant that you could have lots of choice in the Reichstag. There were lots of different parties voted in, so people had lots of choice. Another thing to mention is that the Weimar Constitution, the set of rules about how you're going to govern the Republic, meant that no one had too much power. For example, the president is voted in every 7 years by the people. The president picks the chancellor. The Reichstag have to agree any laws that are brought into Germany, and the Reichsrat could delay any laws if they saw any problems with them. Local government keep control of their local police forces and their school, so the power really is spread between lots of these features here. However, if we look on the weakness, there is often no clear majority in the Reichstag. There are 29 political parties. This means that there isn't really a majority to help vote through laws. This can mean that there are coalitions where certain parties have to join together, and this is going to weaken some of their policies as people have to make concessions and negotiate to try and govern the country. So having lots of choice isn't necessarily a good thing for running the country. Also, we have a gross misuse of Article 48. Now, remember, Article 48 is to help govern the country in times of emergency. Because there were no strong majority in the Reichstag, often chancellors had to use Article 48 to govern the country, to pass laws and to pass policy. This shows a great weakness in the constitution. Finally, the big overarching point here is that the Constitution never really had strong support. If you remember, it's established in the middle of a German Revolution when there is chaos in the country, and it is put together pretty quickly. Moderates and extremists do not like the Weimar Constitution, and it never really has full public support.